podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
It's a troubled time in the town of Ravenport. This once peaceful seaside city has been seized by an evil overlord. Most of the townsfolk run in fear of the frightening monsters. Others, however, have
Did that
decided
sound
to fight
familiar to you
back.
guys? It didn't to me neither, but that is the story of Rebels of Ravenport Upgraded, which is a new game on Kickstarter currently for a little bit less than 2 weeks now. And we're lucky enough to have on Mike, who is the creator and mastermind behind this great game. Is that correct? Is that how you fit into line with Rebels of Ravenport Upgraded, Mike?
Hey, I am the designer of Rebels of Ravenport.
Cool beans. So before we get into that, let's rewind a little bit if we could. We don't have to go back too far, of course, unless you were born into board gaming. But how did you get started into tabletop board gaming, Mike, if you don't mind us asking?
I'd say I've been a gamer all my life. I started playing video games since I was about 3. And then as I kind of went through playing Nintendo and Super Nintendo, we kind of got into the cardboard side of the gaming hobby. So starting off with like your American classics, Monopoly, Sorry, and whatnot. Eventually getting into your Euro strategy games. I think, like many gaming groups, I got turned on to Settlers of Catan. Probably at the beginning of as when I started going to college. And from there, just expanding and exploring.
Oh wow!
More
so they used
games.
I know we do it as parents with the iPads and whatnot, but they used the Nintendo, I guess, to kind of necessarily as a babysitter, but kind of.
Yeah, you could say that. It definitely kept my brother and I pretty entertained.
Well, there you go. Did you have favorite games on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as expansive a library as consoles these days, but Mario Duck Hunt, my favorite game is Metroid. Metroid for the NES and Super Metroid for the SNES. I got into speedruns for Super Metroid for the SNES. That's how hardcore I was into it. A speedrun is when you try to go through the beginning to the end of the game as fast as possible. There's different variations of a speedrun in which you say, I'm going to get to the end of the game as fast as possible, no matter what I have to do to get it. And that could mean I'm using cheats or exploits or soft spots. There's a version where you run to the end of the game as fast as possible and do it legit and don't do any exploitations. And then there's a version where you get as fast as possible to the end of the game and you collect every single item in the game. And that's what I was most interested in, memorizing the route, knowing where every hidden item was, pick up every item, and get 100% completion. So when I was going hard with that, I was able to do it in about 2 hours. And I think maybe the highest record that you'd see on YouTube is under an hour. So clearly would need to put a lot more time into it to be able to...
Well, there you go. And they don't use any video editing or whatnot on YouTube?
No, not allowed to edit the video. Actually, I think there is a version of a speedrun where you are allowed to edit the video and basically string together your fastest instances of every section of the run. But there's a huge, maybe not huge, but a very cult community that is dedicated to speedruns, and they're in everything. They're in PC games, console games, handheld games, like... I'm sure if you think of any video game,
I was big
into
like regular Mario Brothers and Mario Brothers 3. I could beat every level in Mario Brothers 3 except for there's like a castle in level 8 that I always had to use a cloud for, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the guy that speedruns Super Mario 64 just recently broke his own record. And I think that's like 100. It's all 120 stars, and I forget the amount of time it takes them to do it, but it's something ridiculous, like less
Well,
than a
that's pretty
couple
good. Yeah, I
hours, I
never did any
believe.
speed runs, but I don't know if we were messing around or whatnot. But one time I was at my cousin's house and we were playing around with a pair of handcuffs. We couldn't get them off or whatnot. But I ended up beating Mario Brothers 3 with my hands handcuffed behind my back. I was pretty proud of that. But no speed run.
All
There you
right,
go. And
well,
then you talked about
that's
the
one way to
American
do it.
classics. I like Sorry and Monopoly and whatnot. I recently tried to go back to do the Sorry. We're playing with my kids and stuff, and wow, I can't believe that I thought that was a great novel game or whatnot. I tried to get into it, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to call it garbage, but I couldn't get into it. My kids really didn't care for it.
Yeah, the classic American games, I believe, are a big reason why many people who aren't associated with the hobby of board gaming think that it's something that's just for children. You know, you have these aspects of luck, and you have roll to move, and you have whatever space you land on is kind of what determines your action for a turn, and they don't see any real strategic decision making involved with it. They see if you're playing with kids and adults, anybody really has a shot to win the game. And I think that kind of does the hobby a bit of a disservice. Obviously, those were the board games that kind of started the industry, so I can't fault them for that. But um, explaining to people who aren't familiar with board gaming as an adult is a bit more of a challenge, and having to express to them that this is something that is a bit more of a cerebral experience, and you need to actually think ahead and use some strategy. I mean, you could tell them chess, I think, is the best example of the ultimate strategy game, but the American
For sure, for
classics,
sure. And
not
then you
so
said you
much.
had your transition into it, like with games like Settlers of Catan or whatnot, or was that the game that got you into it? Or
Yeah, I think Catan was probably the first Euro game that I started playing, and then kind of got worn out with that. Not quickly at all, but over the years that we played it, because that was really the only strategy game that we played as a group. And we introduced Titan. The Arena was a big one for us. We introduced Citadel's Seven Wonders, Ascension, Machi Koro. Most recently, we've been playing Champions of Midgard, which is
oh, well,
probably
you
my
beat
new
me to the
favorite
question.
game.
I was about to ask, what's your favorite game? Usually I tease or well, I don't know if it's teasing or whatnot. Nobody's ever commented on it, but I usually tell my audience and the person I'm talking to that you need to can you pick your favorite game, but don't pick your favorite because I think my audience might have me out in the street and hung if I let you pick your own favorite game. But it sounds like you already beat me to it. So you said, what is it called again?
Oh, Champions of Midgard. It's
Cool.
a worker
Yeah,
placement
I
game.
think I've seen it around or whatnot, but I haven't played it. So if there's somebody else out there like me that they probably know what the worker placement mechanic is or whatnot, but haven't played that game or seen it, what can you tell us about that? Champions of Midgard, you called it?
Yeah, it's a Viking themed game. So everybody plays as a Viking warrior leader, and they're seeking glory for their clan. And the primary way that you're going to earn glory is by defeating these monsters that are either attacking your village or on the outskirts of your village. And the play style is in a worker placement game. I mean, this is the only worker placement game that I've actually played. But you're basically drafting these spots that allow you to take a different action, and you go around the table with however many workers you have. In this game, it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5, and you pick your spots. So some spots allow you to generate resources, some spots allow you to use your resources, roll your dice, attack the monsters, exchange your resources for other things. So it's all about using your workers as efficiently as possible, and kind of doing it to the end of gaining glory as a Viking warlord. So the theme is great, the art is really great, and it plays clean. It probably takes maybe 15 minutes to explain to new people, so it's not like a super rules light game, but it does play very clean. So when I explained it to my group, they kind of knew what they were doing within the first 5 minutes of playing, and
Well,
then
there you
really
go.
enjoyed it
Are
from
you a
there.
champion with your group, or What kind of win rate do you have with that game?
I introduced it to my group just last weekend, and I was teaching it, and I won. So that means I didn't do a very good job teaching it. If I was the only one that had played before, and I was the one that ended up winning. So
There you go.
I'm 1-0
There you go.
right
Well,
now.
we hope you keep that record. Now, let's go to the elephant in the room or whatnot. The word on the street is, Mike, that you have a new game on Kickstarter. What can you tell us about your new game, Rebels of Ravenport Upgraded?
Sure. Okay. Rebels of Ravenport. Hopefully, what everybody came to listen for. So, Rebels of Ravenport is a game for 2 to 6 players. It's light on rules. It's got charming artwork. If you take only one thing away from this podcast, take this away. All right. This is the kind of game that I designed specifically to be a competitive strategy game without the hostility of a lot of games that are out there right now. So there's really no take that mechanic. There's no mechanic that allows you to throw a card at another player and deny him his current resources or whatever he is currently building. Everything that you kind of build and strategize around is yours to keep throughout the rest of the game. So what you're really doing is you're interacting with the other players by what's on the board and what's available to them, kind of like what strategy you think that they're building for, and how you can kind of manipulate that and go around that. So the other unique thing about this game, maybe not unique, I'm sure other games have done this, but a really fun aspect of it is that there's 2 victory scenarios. So one is the classic victory points, where if you have the most victory points at the end of the game, then you win. And then the other scenario is if anybody defeats the end boss, who is the overlord, the guy who has led this army of monsters into the once peaceful seaside town of Ravenport. If anybody defeats him throughout the course of play, then they win the game. So you're pretty much having this kind of dynamic around the table where some people are trying to kill this overlord and not really worrying about what the victory point score is, because ultimately they're not going to matter if somebody takes this guy down. And others are trying to make sure that nobody does take down the overlord because they're hoarding points and they want the game to end on the victory point scenario, so that way their high score gets tallied up and they win. So it starts off, basic. Everybody has the same resources, and as it kind of churns out, the last few go arounds around the table are really intense. I tell you, it's it's a dice-based game, so there's a little bit of luck involved, but there's also a lot of hedging and strategy involved with it. So I think like the last few rounds that we played have been like really like edge of your seat, just good old-fashioned family
you
fun.
About it being competitive, but not a take that, or what exactly did you say it for?
Yeah, it is a competitive game, as in it's not a cooperative game. You're playing against the other players around the table to see who could win. But it's not the kind of game where you have hostile relationships, where you have, say, Settlers of Catan. All right, I'm putting the robber on you. I'm stealing your resources. I'm denying, this one hex from being able to produce. So there won't ever be anybody that feels singled out when they're playing Rebels of Ravenport. Everybody that I've had review it that's played it with their family has had a really good time. I didn't design it as a family game. I more designed it as something that I could play with my friends if we were ever getting too upset with each other over the games that we were playing, and then we could kind of pull that out and take a breather and just have some fun. It's kind of just what it's focused on.
Story. That's pretty cool. I remember today I was watching one of my favorite podcast hosts. He also hosts he hosts Tuesday Night Games podcast, as well as has a game company. Came out with games like Two Rooms and a Boom and World Championship Russian Roulette. And he said it seems like he likes the co-op games and whatnot. He didn't really care for the necessarily the competitive games and whatnot. And maybe it's a hostility he doesn't like. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I enjoy competitive or co-op games as well. I think if I were to design another game, I would probably see how I could do one as a
Cool.
co-op game.
Yeah, me and my wife are big into the competitive. I think mainly she likes it. She likes to beat me and whatnot. So yeah, but it looks like a really fun game. I like the art and whatnot. Now you're probably a little biased, so you probably really like the game, especially after having played it and play tested and whatnot. So, other than you, is there any other like previewers or reviewers that people might be able to go and see what they thought about it?
Yeah, I think I've got 6 reviews online. 3 of them are video reviews. So you can see how other folks have gone through and played the game, what they've liked about it, what they didn't like, what they thought of all the different components, the rules, the artwork. So that's all on the Kickstarter page. You can get a couple written reviews, couple video reviews.
Well, so what do we got? We got it looks like Edo possibly. Did the Cardboard Stacker do a video? Yeah, the Cardboard Stacker as well. Who's the other one? Okay, cool. And then it looks like written reviews of Dane Trimble of Everything Board Games, and then let's see, Pawn Perspective and the Indie Game Report. It looks like.
Yep, and then the Pawn's Perspective.
Okay, and it looks like this isn't a podcast exclusive. It looks like you've been on a couple others. One of them is my favorite, We're Not Wizards with Richard Simpson. I really like that one. Unfortunately, I haven't got to listen to your podcast yet. I think you have like 3 to 5. I just caught a couple in the last couple he had, so I should be getting there pretty soon here. And then there's another one I hadn't heard of. What's that one?
That's a newer podcast. I don't think they have as big of a following as Richard's. I can't recall the name of it, but I wasn't actually on that one. They just kind of highlighted my game. They do a Kickstarter highlight every week, and they just picked my game. They just kind of discussed my game, what they thought about it, gave their input, and I said, sure, anything like you want to say is fine.
Kickstarter possibly might be the name of it. The Tabletop Warriors.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's it.
Cool. And so they just mainly highlighted it, you said?
Yeah, they just kind of discussed it. They talked about the video, the mechanics of the game, the pricing, just everything that they could kind of glean from the Kickstarter page, because they go through all the new games that come out each week and pick one to put out on their podcast.
That's a pretty cool service. That's awesome. Cool. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and you said how did you get the inspiration behind this game, Mike?
So the inspiration, I've designed a few board games, none that I brought to Kickstarter, and where I first started was a game that we called Glyph Warriors. And this is spun off of a game that my brother and I created when we were kids. We were in high school and we decided to make a board game, and it was basically a 4-person, 4v4 tactics grid-based, basically mini Dungeons and Dragons, where you would kind of be in this arena together and have to go and kill one another, and you could be free-for-all or teams or whatever. So I tried to redesign that maybe 4 years ago, and I ended up doing it exactly how I wanted to, but it was really complicated, and when I was doing play tests, I couldn't really keep anybody's interests, just because, you're at a convention trying to do play tests and teach your game, and it takes 20 minutes to explain it, and you really got to play a round or two before you figure it out. So I went from there and I said, all right, I need to make something a lot simpler, and something that plays clean but still has some strategy in it. So what I intended for Rebels of Ravenport as far as mechanics go is to have the game be really as kind of simple on the rules as possible, but have as much strategy and depth as possible. I wanted to achieve as much depth as possible without overcomplicating it at all. So that's where I approached the game mechanically. And then as far as the theme goes, to be perfectly honest, I didn't really push any boundaries with that. It's your basic medieval fantasy, evil monsters, good humans. We want to fight the monsters, kill them, drive them out of our town. It's no story that hasn't been told before, but the artwork definitely puts its own unique flavor into the game. So that's kind of how I approached everything mechanically.
Yeah, I really like the artwork. Did you do that, or did you find somebody else to do the artwork?
No, I wish. I actually did a good bit of like the layout, the card templates, a lot of the basic graphics I've done myself in Photoshop, but I did hire an artist to do all the actual illustrations of the rebels and the monsters.
It looks
and
like his name is Vaughn. It
backgrounds.
looks like.
Yeah, yep, Vaughn. He is.
How did you
He's a
find
really
him?
good guy. I found him on a freelance website, Upwork.com. So he had his portfolio posted, and you can go on there and look at all different artists, and they'll have their portfolios on there, and it'll be their pricing as well, or at least give you an idea of how they do pricing, whether it be by the hour. And I posted my game, and I actually reached out to him directly, and I said, "Look, I posted this request. I saw your bio. Looks like it would fit really well." And he responded and said, "Yeah, I think my style would be perfect for it." So that worked out really well for
one
us.
of our previous guests had talked about Upwork. I think Adam from Adam Apple's Games, who recently had Sword Crafters on Kickstarter. I think that's where he found some of his workers and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's awesome. And during playtesting, you talked about doing that a little bit ago. During playtesting, was there ever anything that you had to scrap because it just wouldn't work, Mike?
Yeah, plenty of things. I mean, I think I went through 10 iterations of the game before I got it to where I have it right now. It wasn't until maybe version 7 that I even introduced victory points to the game. Originally, the whole premise of the game was just based upon defeating the Overlord, and it was kind of just the race to make the most efficient use of your resources to defeat the Overlord. And then I decided, all right, maybe it's too simple right now. I need to kind of put a little bit more of a dynamic into it, and that's when I introduced the victory points and splitting the victory scenario. So that might be one of the bigger ones. And then some of the other ones, just kind of balancing the cards and the costs and all of that. Really interesting note as far as balancing goes. I think on every different playtest I had players say that card is overpowered, and that card needs to be more expensive, and that card is OP. So I think it's like every different card at one point has been declared by a different set of players to be overpowered, and I don't know. I think I feel like that means that that is truly balanced because players are seeing the cards being used to very good effect, and then they all think, "Wow, that's really powerful." But truthfully, anything can work really well in this game if it's used in the right
So how do
scenario.
you tell how to cut something? Like if you got that answer or told that it needs to be cut more than once or something?
Yeah, I don't know that I did a whole lot of cuts per se. I'm trying to think of anything specific. I did a lot of modifications, but what I kind of had some cards in there that maybe just needed to be balanced and maybe not necessarily cut from the game. But I don't think that there was much in there that I really kind of had that was too much, too powerful, and needed to be removed from the game, or just mechanically didn't
And
work
one
for
of
the
our
game.
fans had asked a question about playtest and whatnot. He wants to design games someday. His name is Jeremy Gridla. I probably slaughtered it, but he asked me to ask some of the designers and whatnot. How do you tell when the game is ready or good enough?
Yeah, that's really the $1 million question. How do you know when the game is ready? For me, it was playing the game multiple sessions in a row, and each time I played it, it was just fun. It was just exactly what I wanted it to be. Everybody around the table's having a good time. To me, that's the ultimate test of is a game good? Is it something that I want to play? Is it something that I enjoy playing? And that was kind of like the first time that it really got to that point. So that's really when I knew when the game was done, when I said, I'm really enjoying this, everybody's having a good time. There may be a little bit more polish to put on it, but basically had what I
Okay,
wanted
that's
at that
pretty
point.
cool. So, what would be the thing you're most proud of when it comes to Rebels of Ravenport upgraded?
That's a good question. What am I most proud of? Um, I think just the experience itself. Really, whenever I sit down to play it right now, like I was saying, people generally just enjoy themselves. And maybe one of the things that's unique to this game that I'm really proud of, because I rarely see it with other games, it's like when you play, it's like maybe 3 out of 4 games will end on the victory point scenario, and 1 out of 4 will end with the Overlord being defeated. And I tell you what, it is exciting for everybody around the table when somebody knocks out the Overlord. And the unique thing is that typically people that aren't even rolling the dice are rooting for their opponent to just say, oh man, that would be really cool. If you rolled 2 5s and a 2, he would win the game right now. And it's usually not something that hard if you're realistically going after the Overlord. But the unique thing that I am proud of is you'll have situations where people are rooting for their opponents just
Okay,
because
that's
they
pretty
get
cool. So cool. That's awesome. So it says upgraded though. What does that mean? Did you have to change? It looks like you might have launched this previously on Kickstarter and had to come back at it. What did you upgrade or change?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So I ran a campaign for this game first in December of 2017, and I had a goal of 10,000, and I got 9,600. So I was just shy of the goal. So I said, all right, I'm going to come back and put even more components in the game. I'm going to upgrade, what you have available. And in doing this, I didn't really change the core game at all. I introduced 2 new modes of play. Probably the biggest changes are these new modes of play. So the base game that I started with, which I told you is very fun and I was satisfied with, we're calling that standard mode. And what I was getting feedback from my first backers was that they just wanted more. They wanted more options. They wanted more replayability. And in doing that, I introduced intermediate and advanced mode. So in these modes, the monsters, instead of being printed on the board, are going to come in a deck of cards. So in intermediate mode, the players are also competing over each monster that they're fighting, because each monster isn't going to be available each round. When you defeat them, you're going to pull the card off the board and replace it with the next card of the deck. So that's the basis of intermediate mode. In advanced mode, the monsters are on cards. It's the other side of the card, so they're 2-sided. And in that mode, the monsters all have special effects. So they might have an effect when you defeat the monster, or they might have an effect if you fail to defeat the monster. So for example, say the Brute. You attack this Brute, he gives you 3 banners, 3 reputation tokens. And one of the advanced Brutes will have an ability that says, if you fail to defeat this monster, you lose 2 reputation tokens, but he's worth more if you defeat him. So that's an example of one of the powers that you could use. So you can manipulate and compete over those cards just like you would in intermediate mode. So I have a GIF in my Kickstarter video that shows the 3 different modes, the board and then the cards flipping over. The other big update that I did was adding guild leaders with asymmetric powers. So instead of starting with standardized, consistent powers across the board, players can essentially have different starting points. So there's some other small things that I've done as well. I added flavor text to all the Rebels. I put the box insert that I was planning on making a stretch goal. I made that standard. A couple other miscellaneous things. So you can see
It
all
looks
that.
like it might have a lower funding goal. Am I mistaken? Or?
Yep, that's right. 7,000 I'm setting it at. I'm hoping that'll be more attainable. Well over halfway there, just throughout the first 48 hours of the campaign. So I've got a couple weeks left to hit.
That's awesome. Cool beans. And you talked about the advanced going to intermediate one, I guess intermediate going to advanced. It looks like that's one of Ferdinand, who is the cardboard stacker, his favorite parts of what you quoted him on in doing that.
Yeah, he did say that, and that's exciting, because I'm sure that, like many people that are backing games on Kickstarter, they're pretty hardcore gamers, so they want something more than just the standard mode that I introduced. So it was really nice to hear him say that. So that's why I quoted him.
How did you go about lowering the funding goal? How did that work out?
Well, it's essentially going to mean that if I only make 7,000, I'm going to have to put up some of my own money to make this happen, which I'm okay with because in the manufacturing process, I'm going to need to get at least 500 units in order to get them shipped out and sent to the backers. So if I only sell a few hundred over the course of the Kickstarter campaign, I'm still going to have residual that I'll need to put on Amazon and sell on the retail side. So hoping to, if I could just break even on this whole project, it'd make me very happy. So if I could, just pull that off over time, that would be a great stepping stone, and then see if I want to design another game after that.
If you're listening right now, go ahead and check out the Kickstarter page. We'll make sure you leave all the links in the show notes. At the time of this recording, which is a couple days before releasing, there was 100 backers. So if there's 400 of you listening right now, go ahead and jump on there. It looks like we're only setting back $25. Am I right?
Yep, that's right. The game is $25. Shipping to USA is going to be $6. So altogether, you're looking at $31.
If there's 400 of you listening, we can go ahead and help them always break even. And when I get 500 backers, that'd be great. And listen.
Yeah, that would be.
Now, per se, Mike, that somebody's fallen asleep and missed what we were talking about, it wouldn't be because of you or your great game. It'd probably be because of me and my podcast. This morning, I don't remember if it was the 47th or 48th episode that I've released this year since January 1st. So they get a little tired of me, hear me drone on and on. So they've fallen asleep or whatnot. But now they're suddenly jolted awake so they don't hit the oncoming traffic. And they have they have your full attention. You have their full attention now because they're suddenly jolted awake so they don't hit the oncoming traffic. Why should they go ahead and take a chance on Rebels of Ravenport upgraded, Mike, especially with all the other great games out there on Kickstarter? I want to say they keep dropping they constantly dropping new games. Why should they take a chance on this
one? This one I think is it's unique in the fact that it's just centered around everybody at the table having a good time. You're going to have fun when you play Rebels of Ravenport. It's not going to be a slow experience. It's not going to be a chore to explain to your friends. It's light. It's a good time for everybody. It's priced appropriately. I'm not asking for $50 here. It's $25 plus shipping to get a hold of it. So, even if you don't like it, it's not that much money. But one other thing on that note, you can play it for free online right now. The whole standard mode is online at tabletopia.com. So Tabletopia is an online board game platform, and it has a ton of different board games on it. You can sign up and play some games for free. My game is for free on tabletopia.com. So just go on there, search Rebels of Ravenport. It's also linked on the Kickstarter page. You can play online.
Okay, there you go. So you can try it before you buy it, I guess, in this.
Right, that's right.
Well, that's always nice. So that's pretty cool. So at least if you don't think you have $25 or whatnot, at least go to the Kickstarter page and then go try and play it, see if it's something you might like, and then you can go ahead and become one of those next 400 backers that we need to get this game funded. So that's awesome. Now, Mike, I don't know if you listen to any of our podcasts or not, but the next section of the podcast is called Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an app, be it for your cell phone, your tablet, your computer, or even a video game. It doesn't even necessarily have to be related to tabletop board gaming, just something you use a lot of. Is there an app you use a lot of, Mike, that we can talk about for a moment?
Yeah, app that I've been fooling around with lately is the Fortnite game on my iPhone.
Okay, do you know if that's available both on iOS as well as Android?
I believe it is, yes, also available on Android. It's on a few different platforms, PC, Android, iPhone.
Oh, cool. Is it a paid app or is it free?
No, it's free.
There you go. So if somebody hadn't heard of that, what can you tell us about it?
Well, it's a multiplayer game that's a mobile shooter. And if you've heard of PlayerUnknown Battleground, it's basically a complete ripoff of PlayerUnknown Battleground. It's a 100-player battle royale free-for-all where everybody gets dropped out of a helicopter that flies over the map, and you parachute down onto this world where there's weapons and items and materials to build walls and slopes, and it's the last man standing. The board closes in on you as the game goes on. Every game might last 20 minutes, beginning to the end. So you have to get to the center of the map or wherever the board closes in on you, and eliminate all the players in your way as you get there. So it's a lot of fun. I would recommend trying it out. If you really are into shooters like me and have grown up playing Halo and Call of Duty, it's going to be a pretty big change of pace considering you don't have a joystick in front of you. It's all touchscreen, which I don't know about you, Lake, but I've got big, fat, chubby fingers, and it's really hard for me to use dexterity and be really accurate on a touchscreen. So I've had quite an adjustment, but over time I've gotten used to it and have had a lot of fun with this game.
Well, there you go. Cool. So it sounds like the complete opposite of a first-person shooter game, is it? Or?
It is a first and third-person shooter. Yeah, it's primarily third person.
Okay, cool. And you like it? That's cool. So, and what was the name of it again?
Fortnite. Fortnite.
Okay, Fortnite. Cool. So, if you own the rights to Fortnite, what would be one thing you would do to fix it or make it a better application?
If I were going to improve it, I'd probably have a couple different modes in it that would maybe make the time go down a little bit faster. I think one of the biggest complaints with the game is that if you truly want to win, you need to be really patient. And that means grab a gun, sit behind a corner, and pretty much wait for players to come your way. And it's probably, each round could be 10 minutes or so of that. And for me, if I'm playing a video game, I kind of want to be enjoying myself the whole time, and camping around a corner isn't always super thrilling. So I think something that would maybe make the time of rounds speed up and the board closing a little bit faster would be more my speed.
Okay. So, yeah, that sounds cool. So, we try to make this a great podcast. So, if the creators of, you called it Fortnite, is that right? So, if the creators of Fortnite are ever listening to this or whatnot, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, what Mike would do to make it a better application.
All right, that's it.
So, there you go. So, Mike, minus coming there to your hometown, it looks like you might be in the Maryland area or whatnot, minus coming there to stalk you personally, how would people go about finding out about you or what you're up to with this game or upcoming game, Mike?
Probably the best way to track it down is on the website. It's rebelsofravenport.com. It's got a little bio about me, how to play the game, links to everything you would want. Facebook, Twitter, Board Game Geek, Tabletopia, Kickstarter. Follow along there. You can join a mailing list through rebelsofravenport.com to get all the updates as well.
Okay, and if you get us a link, we'll go ahead and make sure we leave everything in the show notes for people sometimes, like maybe they have fat fingers too and they don't want to, it's hard for them to type it into their phone or tablet or whatever they're using. This way they can just click the link and be on their way and at least check out the game or whatnot. So there you go. So we don't want to keep you all night, Mike, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief to talk about Rebels of Ravenport upgrading with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me.
No problem. Thank you, Mike.
Alrighty, take it easy.
You too.
It's time for Kickstarter Corner. To begin now.
You heard her right. It's Kickstarter Corner, but first, a little apologies as I don't know what on earth was going on in the background and our guests' audio. So I apologize for that. No way for me to get that out, but I did the best I could, and we're hoping to make things a lot better coming up in the near future. Also, been working on getting those giveaways that we hadn't gotten out forever out. So if you remember your name being on the list, let us know. Send us an email or whatnot at gamerelief@gamereliefgo.com. Also, keep in mind, we're going to have it open for you guys. The website's being updated to where you'll be able to go ahead and make sure you sign up for our mailing list. And by doing so, you'll be able to be entered into some giveaways. Plus, you'll be able to find out when we go live for our own Kickstarter. Yes, sirree, you heard me right. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get on with it, shall we? Yes, 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 we shall. So, here is the Kickstarter Corner like you've been waiting patiently for. Railroad Rivals. Railroad Rivals is a fast-played tile drafting game where you build a railroad empire that stretches across America and across your table. From Forbidden Games, they have overfunded and they have less than 5 days to go. They end on the 10th of April. Definitely check this one out. It is a very pretty great game. And then we've got Arena, the contest. Tabletop miniature board game. They're way over their goal. Let's see here. I want to say they're getting close to being 1,000% over. They were going for 50K. They're now at 444K. They got about 3 weeks to go. They end on Thursday, the 26th of April. So definitely check that one out. There's a huge, giant miniature dragon, and we should be hopefully previewing that game coming up in the coming, hopefully pretty soon here. If not this Friday, look for it next Friday. Kind of everybody's been sick, unfortunately. And then don't forget Cat Rescue, the game of saving cats. Cat Rescue is a 1 to 4 player co-op game. Players work together to save cats and adopt them just like in real life. And our friend over at Logan Chops Reviews, this is Joshua Burrell, he's actually growing those chops out that gave him the Logan Chops name. But anyways, he's growing those chops out, and his YouTube channel, he went ahead and did a playthrough of this with I always get the confused, with Gothylocks, his wife, and we're halfway through that, watching that, because we're going to be doing a preview or review, whatever you want to call it, on our podcast pretty soon. Probably this Friday. I will play it tomorrow, and then, yeah, we'll go ahead and get that up for you. Also, Dungeon Brawl. It's a customizable, free-for-all RPG board game. In this board game, your friends are now your enemies, vying for the treasure. Choose a class, create a deck, and destroy your friends. Did I tell you Cat Rescue goes for about, 15 more days, so about 2 weeks left. They end on Thursday, April 19th as well. And on this one, they're 200% funded, and they're going for a stretch goal. Sorry if I didn't tell you that previously. And yeah, so Dungeon Brawl. Go ahead and brawl your friends and tell your friends about this great Kickstarter. Remember to go ahead and click the links on our show notes. Show a little bit of support to us and the people we're supporting. That way we can keep getting these great Kickstarter games to bring to you and great interviews. That would be grand and dandy. We would appreciate it. Then, do you remember Swords and Cells? Rewrite history in 1000 AD. Swords and Cells is an epic conquest and diplomacy game about leading your armies and fleets through medieval Europe in 1000 AD. They've got 23 days to go, and they're getting really close to their goal. So we'll go ahead and show them a little love. They go through Saturday the 28th of April. Definitely check that one out. And then what else do we got? We got Wasteland, the Rise of Altfelter, or Wasteland ROA. It's based in the Wasteland universe and is the flagship title for a series of upcoming projects and designs by Team Siren. I hope they make it. They've got 9 days to go, and they end on the 14th of April. If not, I hope they relaunch. What else do we got? We've got Terminus Breach, TD, a tower defense game. A tower defense board game, if you want to be technical. But we're never technical on getting geeky with Game Relief, are we? Well, anyway, it's a semi-co-op tower defense game for 1 to 3 players. Customizable maps, upgradable towers, 9 characters, and 15 waves to survive. So yeah, anyways, they're about what 7, 14, 21, 28, 4th. They're a little bit under a quarter funded, I think. They got 7 days to go. I hope they make it. If they don't, I hope they relaunch. They go through what? The 12th of April. So definitely check this one out. Let's help Matt get this game funded. It's been a long time in the making. And then if you ever have felt uncomfortable, or not uncomfortable, I would say you're kind of scared to get into D&D, no need to worry anymore, because with Austin's 5th edition player starter kit, you now have a starter kit to help brand new players get a taste of what it's like playing Dungeons and Dragons. Check out this Kickstarter. They got about a week to go, ending on Thursday the 12th of April. So check that one out. And then what else do we got here? We did that one. Now we got Dragon Keepers by Vitel Lacerda and his daughter Catarina. It's a thematic game with strategic decision-making and gameplay modes for both children and adults. It's fun and casual for experienced gamers. They are funded and they end really soon here. They got less than 4 days to go, ending on Monday, April 9th. Definitely check this one out. It is a pretty fun game by Nightworks. And then I would say you will probably want to be 13 or 14 over. Yeah, be 13 or 14 plus. I wouldn't give this to your little children to play. But you got Fractured Zombies. It's a card game involving letter cards designed by a dyslexic, also involving chainsaws, guts, brains, and severed hands. Why I said don't give it to your children. They got 26 days to go, and they're 97% funded. So definitely check that one out. And then we've got Flippin' Fine's Diner. Flippin' Fine's Diner is a diner that you run, and it's in complete chaos. In the set collection memory game, what am I saying? Find the ingredients to fill orders and make tips. They've got 5 days to go. Let's help them fund too, ending on Tuesday, April 10th. Definitely check this one out. It's only like, you can get it for $25. So bring this great game home to you or to your gaming table. Yes, sir, Bob. And then, I don't know if you've heard about this one. If you listen to Getting Geeky with Game Relief, you've probably heard Mark on the show a couple times. But anyways, I wanted to highlight this one really quick. Wreck and Ruin. Battle for lost. Wreck and Ruin. Battle for lost technology in a post-apocalyptic world. Shoot, ram, and wreck your way to victory. It's kill or be killed. This is by Mark. It says Mark at Dream Big Games, but I like to think of him as Mark of Wreck and Ruin fame. We had him on the podcast twice. Yes, sir, Bob, twice. They've got, probably by the time you hear this, less than 10 hours to go. They were at 76% funded. So, no, 78, I think, when I recorded this. So definitely check it out. It's only, 49 pounds, or I don't know if that's pounds. Don't know how to tell my UK geography or UK money. I'm kind of not UK savvy, I guess. But anyways, $65 or so, about $65 in the US. So yeah, definitely check this out on the Kickstarter. Let's help Mark get this great game funded finally. It's pretty cool. And is that all we got? I think so. There's so many games out there. They keep launching 9 to 12 every day. I go ahead and I try to find out if they want to be on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. If you know or you want your game on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, make sure you send us a Facebook message via Messenger to either Getting Geeky with Game Relief or my personal page, Blake Leafdy. Yes, sir, Bob. Now it's our least favorite time. You got to get on with your life. I got to get on with my life. But in the meantime, shall we not get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into the geek fold? I think we shall. Anyways, this is Game Relief signing off. Game Relief out.
Game Relief levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.